Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
I call Paul Eagle.
Look, don't get too excited, because I'm pretty excited. But thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my pleasure to be speaking on exciting things like let's get the title right for starters, the Crown Minerals Amendment Bill number 2. It is the second reading. And I do want to acknowledge the hard work of the Economic Development, Science and Innovation Select Committee. It wasn't as hard working as when I was on it, but they still work hard. They still do good work, just not as good as when I was the Deputy Chair. But nonetheless, this is an important piece of work.
I apologise for interrupting the member. I don't think it's number 2.
Oh,
I think
okay.
It's number 1.
Number 1, sorry. That is actually my...
If we're going to be correct.
That is actually my pen mark on here. No. You're welcome to inspect, or I can submit it formally for inspection. But I don't want to offend... I wouldn't want to offend Chris Bishop any further, but he's not here to be offended. Now, can I just say that this will... Hold it. Can I just repeat and just acknowledge the words of the Leader of the House, the Honourable Chris Hipkins, who introduced this bill. And he said that this would be one of the less controversial things in Parliament. And so I think that's good. People have tried to be a little tribal and a little negative. They've started the engine, but they haven't got far. And that's okay. It's been a long week, a few weeks to go. But look, I'm going to repeat what others have said. It's really largely a technical bill that makes amendments to ensure that the existing Crown Minerals arrangements operate effectively. There we are. So it's going to amend the Crown Minerals Act of 1991, and the Act itself provides for the efficient allocation of rights to prospect for, that's one, explore for and mine Crown Minerals, and the effective management and regulation of those rights. So fairly technical. We've heard others say it's a bit of a clean-up, a spring clean. We heard that from several. A clean-out. And so that's one of the great things. That's one of the great... Matt, I don't want to use words like clean-out. They might offend people. But look, can I just say it is one of those bills that does that effectively. And that's why it's good. I also wanted just to note, I just wanted to reflect a bit and just to reinforce some of the points that have been made, and the fact that this government is committed to that just transition to net zero emissions, a net zero emissions economy. Now, we heard a little bit of argy-bargy around cowboys. Who are they? Where are they? We shouldn't be saying things like that. Look, it's much more around just saying, look, this tightens up the rules, makes the framework clear and doesn't allow any in. So if there are some out there hanging around on their horses ready to come riding in, it puts a stop to that. And I think that's the point that Gareth Hughes was making, to say it stops that. And so the recent change to the Act to halt future offshore gas and oil exploration permits is a signal from this government so that the industry and the community, or New Zealand, can make that transition. I also note that there has been an acknowledgement to look at the wider Crown Minerals Act and ensure that it is future-proof to meet the needs of all New Zealanders. That's why I understand that there will be a review of the whole Act, or a wider review of the Act, and that will be engaging many more people, because I think we had 11 submitters, so a small group but an important group. And my understanding and feedback from those on the committee is that was a good amount of people feeding back into this process. The Select Committee did examine the bill and unanimously recommended that it passed with some amendments. And Madam Chair, those have been discussed, and I'm going to leave it there. We won't talk about my favourites. I think we'll now just simply commend the bill to the House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Crown Minerals Amendment Bill, second reading.
This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Accident Compensation